The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
Hey, welcome back. This is Arlene, and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today is Friday, the last day of the week. So, how are you going to spend your weekend? So, for me, Friday usually the day where I feel the most relaxed because it's the last day, and it's the day I can try to sort of relax and just figure out what should I do during the weekends. So, moving on to our ASEAN Breakfast Call, we have our news commentary today. We are going to comment on all 10 news. Today we only have 7 news from Southeast Asia. And from Southeast Asia, we start with Thailand first. So the headline for today is Thailand launches corruption probe against ousted PM Yingluck. So Thailand's anti-corruption agency said Thursday it will investigate assets of ousted Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra and 4 members of her cabinet involved in a controversial rice subsidy program. Rice subsidy program. A military coup toppled Yingluck's government last Monday amid worsening political deadlock and massive street protests by the government's critics and supporters. And the National Anti-Corruption Commission had already indicated Yingluck over charges of derelictions of duty in overseeing the rice subsidy program, charging that she has failed to heed advice that it was potentially wasteful and prone to corruption. In an early ruling, the commission said it was unclear whether Yingluck herself was involved in the corruption or had allowed it to take place. The commission brief announcement said 3 former Commerce Minister and former Deputy Commerce Minister would also be investigated. So I guess it's an ongoing thing when it comes to the charges against Yingluck, especially charges on the corruptions, on the rice subsidy. Let's just see whether how it would turn out to be in terms of how the Thai judge would judge the corruption issue with Yingluck Shinawatra and her ministers. And the next one, we move to Indonesia. So as we all know, Indonesia is currently having its elections, and its presidential race elections is beginning. And campaigning for Indonesia's July presidential elections has officially kicked off, with favorite Joko Widodo facing a tough challenge for Suharto-era former general with a checkered human rights record. Widodo, who won legions of fans during his time as Jakarta governor, stated the campaign period with a ceremony at his Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggles headquarters in the capital yesterday. He called for a peaceful election with integrity following recent personal attack, including a false claim he's not a Muslim, a potential serious charges in the world's most populous Muslim majority country. His only opponent, ex-General Prabowo Subianto, headed to Bandung yesterday to begin campaigning. Voters face a stark choice between Widodo, 52 years old, seen as the fresh face in a country still dominated by figures from 3 decades, Suharto dictatorship, and Prabowo, who has deep roots in the past. We have been covering the ongoing Indonesian president election ongoing election for quite some time, and we're actually excited with the presidential election, partly because the presidential election could be a turning point for Indonesians politics, considering you have an old guard, which is someone who has been there for quite some time, Prabowo, and who has a deep and rooted track record in the past during Suharto's era, and someone who is young and would be considered the Obama of Indonesia, which is Widodo, someone fresh and someone that could speak for the future of Indonesia. And whoever win the race will set the pace for Indonesia's future 5 years in the future. And so we look forward to the presidential election, and I think Indonesians are quite excited with this election because it will sort of move forward either towards the old guard or towards the younger generation of Indonesia. And the next one, we have to move to China, and China sentences 9 terrorists to death. That was the headline that was given, and China has sentenced 9 people to death on terrorism-related charges in its ethnically divided western region of Xinjiang, state media said Thursday, as authorities cracked down following several deadly attacks. Multiple courts in Xinjiang sentenced 81 suspects on various terror-related charges, state broadcasted CCTV said. While Xinjiang, home to the mostly Muslim Uyghur minority, has seen an increase in violent clashes, which Beijing blames on organized terrorism groups seeking independence from the region. Critics say Beijing escalates the terror threats in Xinjiang to justify hardline measures and point in economic inequality and cultural and religious repression of Uyghur as causes of unrest. Well, the issue between China and Xinjiang is quite complex, but at the same time, China sentencing 9 supposedly terrorists to death is a bit too exaggerated, and separatists. There's a major difference between separatist group and terrorist groups, and to identify someone who just because they want to seek independence from China. The 9 Uyghur minorities doesn't mean they are terrorist group. The difference between terrorist group and separatist group usually they are freedom fighters. They usually would fight for the freedom of their people, and they usually have issues with the majority population because they want to seek an independent government of their own. While terrorist group, they are there to terrorize people due to their belief, their ideology, and they don't care about whoever it is. They don't have a clear motive other than to seek to get their ideology in place. So in this case, I personally believe it's not really a case of having China sentencing 9 terrorists to death, but it's more like China is trying to silence, to mute the voices of the separatist group by sentencing them to death. Move forward to that, and talking about Xinjiang itself. Xinjiang, although China have Xinjiang as its majority Muslim population there, but in actuality, China is actually quite diverse in the sense that in every state in China or every territory in China have a Muslim in it. It's just that the Muslim in Xinjiang is mostly the Uyghur Muslim, which is the minority Uyghur Muslim have with a totally different culture than the Han or the Hui Muslim. And in this regards, China is trying to silence the separatist group in a way for them to ensure that China's is intact and none of its states can sort of like seek independence from itself. And the same goes with Beijing itself. Beijing is also currently in Tibet itself. Tibet is currently trying to also push forward to be more independent, but also facing a lot of clashes with the Beijing headquarters. And now we move on to Singapore. And talking about Singapore, we also have our co-host here, Gowri. Hi, Gowri. You want to start with the news about Singapore today?
Yeah, sure, Arlene. Singapore reveals a quirky consular request. So the headline goes, Singapore on Thursday urged its globe-trotting citizens to avoid misusing consular services abroad, revealing odd requests, including one man who actually demanded to get a refund for bad sex. So, according to their foreign minister, they handled over 3,000 consular cases last year, and many are genuine. But sometimes they do get odd requests, he said in a Facebook post.
I see. This is pretty interesting. I mean, the news of Singapore.
Yeah, like the headline, it is a quirky news for this morning.
Just now we start out with very serious news. Now we can sort of make it a bit more quirky, I guess.
And in one instance, Shanmugam also said that a Singaporean sought Ministry of Foreign Affairs intervention for a refund after he got illegal sexual services in a foreign country.
I see. And he was satisfied with what he had gotten. It seems like he wasn't satisfied with what he has gotten, and we have to tell him that MFA could not help. That was stated in the news itself.
That's right. I think they're getting really spoiled in that way. That when they're abroad, yeah, they do have right to all these consular services as a citizen of Singapore. But then to ask for things like a refund for a bad sexual experience that they had in another country, that is pushing it a bit too far.
It's funny. Like, I mean, to me, the biggest I guess the biggest weirdest news of this is like why the state have to care about the personal life of its citizen, right? I mean, in Malaysia, we are trying our best to ensure that the state is secular, to ensure that the government do not, jump into the bedroom and then detect like what we should do, what we should not do. But it seems like in Singapore, they are trying to say, hey, why don't you, care? Why don't you take care of our bedroom or our personal private life?
I think in a way they actually like that. Like I said earlier, they are maybe spoiled. It's not the word, but I think they do like being taken care of to that extent. To know that they have the rights and they can demand these things while they are not in the country. I think it gives them like a certain a special exclusivity in a way.
But what about you? I mean, to me personally, I think that state should definitely stay away from the private life of a person of its citizens.
I think that they should not stay away completely because consular services can be important when their citizens are abroad. They might be facing certain harsh situations.
In bed.
Well, not in bed. I mean, there could be other real emergency situations where they really need the help of the foreign minister. They probably lost their passport or got robbed or whatever. Like those really urgent things are okay, but for things like bad sex and all, I think that one maybe the government should stay away from that.
Yeah, I think they should draw a clear line. I mean, the government, like what what is within their jurisdiction and what is not within their jurisdiction.
They should probably work it out with their people and draw a clear line there, so they don't waste time on things like this and focus on maybe something that's a lot more important.
Yeah, something that is related to security and all that.
Someone who is facing a major problem instead.
So the next one?
The next one is about BGB meeting Myanmar border police. So the officers of the BGB, which is the border guard of Bangladesh, have met senior officers of Myanmar's border guard police over the killing of a Bangladeshi trooper in a border firing at Bandarban's Naingakchachi.
That's a very good
That's
pronunciation.
quite a mouthful.
So in a press statement released on Thursday, the BGB said their officers sat with the BGP at the Myanmar's Modu in the morning to diffuse border tension that has rose following the killing of Nayak MD I think Naik Muhammad Mizunur Rahmat in an unprovoked firing on BGB patrol teams near a Rohingya refugee camps on May 28.
Yeah, so BGB only later admitted to having a body. Following a fresh encounter, a BGB team was finally allowed to enter Myanmar, identify the body, and bring it back on the 1st of June.
Yeah, and BGB quotes Barzar Sector Commander Colonial Kadal Care Farid
yeah.
Hassin led the 23-strong Bangladesh team in the talks, and its Deputy Director General Abdul Hasnat Muhammad Khairul Bashar operation, and he's part of the operation and training, said that the meeting ended at 5 o'clock.
They all have very long names, don't you think?
They do, and it's not easy to pronounce as
Oh,
well.
yeah. So it seems that the officials of the two countries held their discussion in a very cordial atmosphere.
Oh, that's good.
So for those who don't know what actually happened, right, on the 28th of May at this Naikanchori in Bangladesh, the border actually of Bangladesh and Myanmar, something unfortunate happened where there was an unprovoked firing by the border guard police of Myanmar, and it actually killed a soldier of Bangladesh who was at the border. And then Myanmar also opened fire without provocation near the border. And this wounded Mizanur. And then BGP intruded into Bangladesh territory and took away the injured Mizanur. And then he apparently died without any medical attention while under the Myanmar guards.
It seems like life is very cheap around that area. I mean, even a guard's life is not protected, and he can be simply be fired off without not having any medical care after that.
I think, I don't know why they did not tend to him after shooting him, and the firing here, as is reported, is also unprovoked. So it seems that Bangladesh did not open fire first. I'm thinking maybe it was probably a mistake. They probably thought they got a false alarm or something, and they opened fire, and then it went and caused all this conflict between them now at the borders.
It's also because, I mean, the area there is an area where there's a lot of Rohingya, and there's a lot of racism against Rohingya as well. And they often refer to the Rohingya community as Bengali. And when it comes to Bengali, it referred to the Bangladeshi people as well. So I think partly it's also because of culture, the way the Burmese people view in a racist way towards the Bengali people or the Rohingya as well.
So let's move on to Brunei now.
So Brunei, so they are having a monthly recycling drive in a national housing scheme. They are having a national recycling drive in all national housing schemes proposed. So a local recycling company has proposed organizing a monthly recycling drive in all national housing schemes. Jeffrey Hang Chun Huang, project manager at Daikyo Environmental Recycling Center Berhad, say that the initiative would target the majority of residents in Brunei who live in government-subsidized housing schemes.
So Jeffrey Hung Chuang Wun, who is the project manager at Daikyo Environmental Recycling Center, said the initiative would target majority of residents in Brunei who live in the government-subsidized housing schemes. So before we continue, I would like to say that it's good to finally have something new from Brunei, because all we ever had the last couple of months was all about the Sharia law. So it's good to have a change of news.
Yeah, it seems like Brunei is going green now. They are having. I think it's good that Brunei is going green, focusing on recycling and other positive move towards more, I would say, environmental conservation initiatives, and one of the, for example, one of the person who said during the press conference, because it is not feasible for Bruneians to collect recyclables from each of their customer, they see that it's a good alternative to encourage recycling habits in Brunei, and that's true. I think it's good that the recycling habit starts from the house itself. Each housing areas should sort of like actively do recycling rather than ensure the government or the garbage collector to do it.
I think this is, in my opinion, it's a bit contradicting to learn about the Bruneians, because when they implemented the Sharia law, the whole world was shocked and called them bigoted, called them old-fashioned, called them very conventional, that they're stuck in the Stone Age. But at the same time, they are doing all these recycling programs, recycling drive in all national housing schemes. And I feel like that is actually something that only someone who is very matured can do, someone who is very developed mentally, someone who is there. So what do you think?
I totally agree. And besides that, just focus on the news itself. The person Jeffrey said that Daikyo has not formally presented the proposal to the government. The idea had received a positive response. In fact, according to the Center for Strategic and Policy Studies (CSPS), solid waste productions is projected to grow from 189 tons per year in 2010 to 370,000 tons by 2030, in the line with current rates, which is 2.73% of population growth. And in fact, by recycling, waste can be reduced by approximately 80%.
So like I said earlier, it's very contradicting that they would go and implement the Sharia law and then they would have all this recycling drive that shows that they're actually not that traditional or stuck in the stone age.
I don't think they are traditional. In fact, Bruneians are actually quite attuned with the global society. I mean, I met some of my Bruneians friends. They're actually quite American or westernized in their attitude. They are aware of what the world is going around. It's just the cultural wives. They are very family oriented in the sense that they put a lot of emphasis on the idea of family, on the idea of sort of preserving the sanctity of or not really the purity, but the sanctity of the family itself. And Sharia law is just another one of the way to ensure that the family is intact. The family can look after each other and not, go away from the path of Islam, which is the region of the majority population in Brunei.
But it's definitely a good effort by Brunei to go green, and as we all know, we are facing the danger of natural resources depleting. So even in Malaysia, I think there should be more efforts for recycling because people are still not so aware of the importance.
Yeah, that's totally true. In fact, what I see is recycling or whatever green initiative is not really on, when it comes to Malaysia, it's not really on the government level. It's more on the grassroots levels, different NGO doing different things. But to me, it's important to put it at the governmental level as well.
Okay, let's move on to Vietnam now.
Which is our last news from today. Germans step up to support for trade and private sector developments in Laos. So it's not Vietnam, it's Laos.
Oh, sorry. But it's reported by Vientiane Times.
Yeah.
So I assumed that it was by Vietnam.
So the Laos German Development Corporations launched a new project in Vientiane yesterday to help Laos to reap the benefits and mitigate the risks of integrations with the ASEAN Economic Community, which will come into effect in 2015.
So the launching of the event was attended by Deputy Minister of Planning and Investment, Mr. Somachit Entamith, who is the Deputy Minister of Industry and Commerce. He was the Deputy Minister of Planning and Investment. And then also present was the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Siaosavat Sevangsuksa. I think I'm going to just skip on all these names if I can, and say that they all had the representatives from all these different departments and also from the special economic zones, and as well as the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry from GIC.
And continue to that, the Director General of the Ministry of Planning and Investment, which is the Department of International Cooperations, Mr. Si Seom Bond, said that the project would run until June 2017 and had an overall budget of 6.4 million euro, around 70 billion kip. So they hope that through this project that it will build upon the result and experience of preceding Lao German Development Corporation projects in areas of trade and private sector development. To me, the interesting part is German is interested in Laos rather than other superpower country like the US or France or UK or whatever. Seems like Germans is taking the initiative to develop Laos.
Yeah, it's interesting that Germany came into the picture, like you said, because US has been trying to develop ties with all the Asian countries. So I guess they overlooked Laos, and Germany thought it would be a good opportunity for them to step in and help to bring out Laos in a way.
In fact, to put it into perspective, Laos is one of the most underdeveloped countries.
That's right. And they haven't been receiving much help or much attention from ASEAN itself.
That's true. So, if you go to Laos, if you are like stepping back probably 50 years behind, because they are still quite underdeveloped. And for Germany to be interested to develop Laos, I think that's pretty interesting. And also, I think it shows that Germans are interested to build ties with Southeast Asians in a way.
I think that wraps up our ABC news for this morning.
Yeah, definitely we should have more conversation. But unfortunately, we only have 7 news for today, and we hope to discuss more on more news commentary next week. For now, we will have a break, and when we return, we will talk about a very interesting topic. Blast from the Grassroots.
Okay, stay tuned.